The bedroom door creaked open at exactly 12:17 a.m., and for one terrifying second, I thought someone had broken into my apartment. The hallway was dark, the air felt strangely cold, and standing in the doorway was my neighbor, Olivia Harper, barefoot, pale, and staring straight ahead with empty eyes. Then she whispered 6 words that changed both of our lives forever. Please don't leave me alone. Before we begin, if you believe in kindness, hope, forgiveness, compassion, and second chances, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring more meaningful stories that touch hearts and inspire lives. My name is Caleb Morgan, and 3 years ago I moved into a quiet apartment complex in Portland, Oregon. I was 32, worked remotely as a graphic designer, and lived a simple life. Most days passed in silence. My parents lived across the country, my closest friends were busy raising families, and after a painful breakup, I had grown comfortable keeping people at a distance. Across the hall lived Olivia. She was around my age and worked at the local library. We exchanged polite greetings in the elevator and occasionally talked about the weather, but that was the extent of our relationship. She seemed kind but reserved, carrying a sadness behind her smile that I could never quite understand. That night when I found her standing in my doorway, she looked completely different. Her eyes were open, but they seemed unfocused. Her face was expressionless. She was clearly sleepwalking. I gently guided her back toward the hallway, unsure what to do. As she turned, she repeated those same words in a trembling voice. Please don't leave me alone. The sentence hit me harder than I expected. It wasn't just what she said, it was how she said it. There was fear buried inside those words, deep, aching fear. I carefully walked her back to her apartment. Fortunately, her door had not fully locked behind her. Inside, everything looked neat and quiet. Family photos lined the shelves. A small lamp glowed beside a couch. I helped her back to bed and left, hoping she would be safe. The next morning, I debated whether to mention it. When I finally knocked on her door, Olivia answered, looking embarrassed before I even explained why I was there. Apparently, this wasn't the first time. She had struggled with sleepwalking for years. But as our conversation continued, I realized something else was troubling her. Something much deeper. Over the following weeks, we gradually became friends. We shared coffee in the mornings and sometimes talked in the courtyard after work. Little by little, Olivia opened up about her life. 2 years earlier, she had lost her father, Thomas. He had been her best friend, her protector, and her source of strength. After his passing, her mother relocated to Florida, her younger brother joined the military, and suddenly the family she depended on scattered across the country. The loneliness became overwhelming. She filled her days with work and responsibilities, but every night the silence returned. And sometimes, during sleep, the grief she fought so hard to hide would surface. That was when the sleepwalking episodes happened. That was when she whispered the words she could never say while awake. As the months passed, our friendship grew stronger. For the first time in years, I found myself looking forward to conversations. We attended community events, volunteered at local food drives, and spent holidays with other neighbors who slowly became like family. But healing is rarely a straight path. One autumn afternoon, Olivia received news that the library where she worked would be cutting staff. Her position was eliminated. The setback devastated her. I watched the fear return to her eyes. The fear of being alone. The fear of starting over. The fear that life would keep taking things away from her. For several weeks, she withdrew from everyone. The cheerful woman who had begun rebuilding her life disappeared behind closed doors. Then one rainy evening, I remembered something her father used to tell her. She had once shared it during one of our conversations. He always said that storms never ask permission before arriving, but neither does sunshine. The next morning, I knocked on her door carrying 2 cups of coffee and a list of local organizations that were hiring. We spent hours filling out applications together. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. And eventually, something remarkable happened. Not only did Olivia find a new position at a community literacy center, but she discovered a renewed purpose. She began helping adults learn to read, mentoring struggling students, and creating programs for families. The work transformed her. For the first time since losing her father, she wasn't simply surviving, she was living. Years later, I still remember another midnight knock. This time, however, everything was different. I opened my door and found Olivia standing there fully awake. Her eyes were bright. Her smile was genuine. In her hands was an invitation. She had been selected to lead a statewide literacy initiative and wanted me present at the launch event. As we stood there talking, she laughed and said something that nearly brought tears to my eyes. She told me she hadn't sleepwalked in over a year. The fear that once haunted her nights had finally begun to loosen its grip. Before we reach the ending, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a moment when a simple act of kindness changed someone's life, or your own? Leave your answer in the comments below. Your story may encourage someone who needs hope today. The launch event took place in a packed auditorium filled with families, teachers, volunteers, and community leaders. When Olivia stepped onto the stage, she spoke about literacy, opportunity, and resilience. But then she shared something unexpected. She spoke about loneliness. She spoke about grief. And she spoke about how healing often begins when one person chooses to stay instead of walking away. Sitting in the audience, I realized something important. That midnight encounter had not only changed Olivia's life, it had changed mine. I had spent years protecting myself from disappointment by keeping people at a distance. Yet the friendship that began with a frightened sleepwalker standing in my doorway had taught me that human connection is worth the risk. Sometimes the people around us are carrying invisible burdens. Sometimes their deepest cries for help are never spoken during daylight. And sometimes the smallest act of compassion becomes the bridge that leads someone back to hope. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who may need encouragement, and subscribe for more uplifting stories. Your engagement helps these messages of hope reach people who might be struggling silently. And whenever I think back to that quiet night in Portland, I still hear those 6 words. Please don't leave me alone. The beautiful thing is that she wasn't alone. Not anymore. And neither was I. Because in a world where so many people feel unseen, one of the greatest gifts we can offer is simply our presence. Sometimes staying beside someone through their storm becomes the very reason they find their sunshine again.